Hi everyone. Another fine day, and it's the start of something really, really beautiful. The immigrant. What did I say the title was supposed to be?
I even forgot.
Not the immigrant experience. Just an
Just
immigrant.
an immigrant, yeah.
Yeah, we've traveled far to get to where we are today, and it's not just us. Almost everybody around here has traveled almost the same distance. We are coming from somewhere. We're here today, and someday we'll not be around here. So, what are we going to be doing? Um, Now that maybe 2, 3, 4, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now, the people that will be here will look at the works and be like, wow, thank God this person was here before me. Today with me, I have someone, so much respect for her. Welcome to the
Just
almost
immigrant.
just immigrant.
Just an immigrant.
Just an immigrant. Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you
How
very
you doing,
much.
boss?
I'm doing well.
Okay, I need your microphone to really get a little
Get closer. Okay.
How is everything?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
Family,
Wonderful.
work, and
Yes, everybody's well.
I think we should start from the beginning.
Okay.
Just an immigrant. Where are you from?
So originally I'm from Cameroon in
Mhm.
West Africa.
Okay. Yeah, this is Cameroon in West Africa or Central Africa. It seems like one time we're in
Well-
West Africa. Now I hear them saying Central
Well,
Africa.
I think I've always known it to be in West Africa.
Yeah.
So, we might be central.
Nowadays, in so many things like the awards and all of that, they're always grouping us with Central African countries, the Gabons, the Congo, the Chads, and all of that. I don't know if that was decided by some. I don't know.
I have no clue, but I know that when you look at the map, we're on the west,
You think
on the
so?
west
we
coast,
we are between the west
and the central
and the
central. So we could go
something-
either way.
Yeah, we could go.
It
Yeah,
could go
'cause we
either
are close
way.
to Nigeria,
Mhm.
which is west, and we are. That's the beautiful thing about coming from Cameroon. They say we are Africa miniature. We have a little bit of everything.
Of everything,
African,
yes.
which is so beautiful. So, Cameroon, tell us a little bit about our country.
Well, I've been gone for so long. Do I know much about Cameroon? So Cameroon is it's a small country compared to other African countries. We share a border with Nigeria, obviously. The other countries that are around us are Ghana. We have
Gabon,
Gabon, yes, Chad.
Nigeria.
Nigeria, definitely. They're like our cousins. We fight. We have a love-hate relationship, but we love our Nigerian brothers
Okay.
and sisters. So Cameroon is a country made up of 10 provinces. 8 of them are French-speaking and 2 are English-speaking. Cameroon was colonized by the French, the English, at some point the Germans, at some
First
point
the Germans.
first the Germans. Yeah, I'm
Then
not going in
yeah,
any order,
okay.
but at some point Cameroon was spelled with a K based on the German spelling, but then it switched to a C. Cameroon is well known for soccer. Most people, when you talk about Cameroon, they immediately associate Cameroon to soccer.
Which is football back home.
Football, we call it football back home, but in the US we call it soccer.
Soccer.
So I think I've been here long enough to, I have to remember to call it football.
Tell us a little bit about the food.
So Cameroon has a lot of cultures, many languages,
More than
obviously.
200
Yeah.
tribes or
Yes.
any groups. Yeah.
And you have people who might even be neighbors and they don't even speak the same language. And
right.
also the food might be different, but the staple foods I'm from the Northwest, so food made out of corn. A lot of people eat food made out of corn, like fufu. You have people eat plantains in different ways. You can make it in different ways, fried, boiled. You have people eat a lot of rice. They grow a lot of rice. They grow cocoa. They grow palm nuts. So palm oil comes from that.
Tea?
What else? Yeah, tea. We have tea. Tole tea. That's the most famous one from the Southwest. And
Rubber?
then rubber. Yeah,
Cash
a lot of rubber. What else? Palm.
You talked about
The
that
drink.
already.
No, the
palm
drink.
wine.
Palm wine.
Okay.
The white drink. That's like a staple. When you have a traditional event without palm wine, then nothing goes right. Even like marriages. They usually, they have to sip some palm wine in there when they're doing a traditional marriage. What else? What other foods? Potatoes. A lot of people eat potatoes.
Oh, you were talking about food.
We were talking about
and then
food.
I was mentioning rubber. That was so wrong.
Well, some people might eat the rubber. I don't know. But in terms of foods, I mean, like I said, because there's so many different cultures in Cameroon. I mean, you cannot lack food. If they put a spread of different foods on the table, you have a whole buffet of different choices in Cameroon. Cameroon has no problem when it comes to food, even though you still have some people who die of hunger. But for the most part, food is what brings Cameroonians together.
Wow. That's beautiful to know. Now, tell us a little bit about the culture, the ethnic groups. I know it's supposed to be more than 200 tribes. Like, how do you guys survive? How do you guys manage all of these? Because I know sometimes when it's too many, it becomes a problem.
It is.
Or how does it feel coming from a place where you have... Yeah,
I think it's rich. Culture in Cameroon is pretty rich because when you go from one group to another, one cultural group to another, they have things that are unique to them. So, for example, I'm from the Menchum division, Womb. My parents are from that division. My mom is Way. My dad is Agam. They speak the same language, but with different intonations. So it's kind of like Spanish, and Mexican Spanish, kind of like that. So I can sit with my parents, I'll turn to my dad, speak his language, turn to my mom and speak her language, but they understand each other. So that's a unique situation. My husband is from another village. We don't speak the same language. So he could say something in his dialect and I will not even understand it. But it's so rich that when you go from one village to another, there's certain things that might cross over, and then there are certain things that are unique. For example, where I'm from, they have something called matrilineal succession, where the succession of property, the inheritance, it's the aunt on the dad's side, son who inherits the property. So you might have a son who doesn't inherit your property. So that's a cultural thing. But when you go from that village to the next village, the succession is different. It might be patrilineal. So that's just one thing I can think of. And then, of course, marriages. There are different things when it comes to like bride price. Some cultures will request they'll have a long list of things that they ask from the suitor, like everything. They want to take everything from you, a TV, this, that, just to name it, cows, goats, all kind of property, while other cultures might just hand over their daughter because they don't want to attach a price to, to that. But that's just a few things that I can think of. And then, they have different cultures when it comes to like I guess like the traditional rulers, things like that. They're different from one culture to another. I've been gone so long, so I have to really dig deep.
I think because I did a little bit of research even before you got here, and I think you're on point. Now, do you think this diversity is a strength or weakness?
It can go both ways.
Okay.
So almost like in the Bible, where the Tower of Babel, when there were too many languages, when everything scattered and it became too many languages, you couldn't understand each other. Too many cultures too, there becomes a difference between one and another. People think one way and the other people think the other way. Then it causes a lot of tension, causes friction because people will not be on the same page because I want it this way, you want it that way. And then we're not on the same page, so we're fighting. But it's rich in the sense that if we look at the positive side of it and we look at the beautiful part of our culture, then we can preserve it. We can preserve it. We can showcase each other's culture, bring it together, and cause and really create a beautiful beautiful cultural display from each. It doesn't have to be about fighting, but obviously we're human, and most people will not look at the positive side of it. But I think that it can go either way. You can either benefit from it in the sense that the diversity will help make Cameroon a more beautiful place, but then the differences is what pulls us apart. So that's, so it can go either way.
Just an Immigrant. This is the segment where we'll talk to people from around the world and get their ideas, get their opinion, get their maybe even suggestions about what to do when you find yourself somewhere. Now, you're making it sound like Cameroon is 7. Where you coming from is 7. Why did you decide to travel to the United States?
So my situation was kind of unique coming to the U.S. I had lived in England as a kid. My parents studied in England. So I was 2 years old when we went to England. They stayed for 5 years and then took us. But my older sister and I had my little sister there, and then we went back to Cameroon. So when I was 20, I won what is called the diversity visa lottery.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up in the U.S. So it wasn't like I had already prepared my mind to stay in Cameroon. I just wasn't thinking of leaving the country. I was already in teachers training college, what we call ENS Bambili. So I was in the second year planning to be a teacher. So I had no plans on leaving Cameroon. Had never heard about the lottery till my older sister brought the idea, and then somebody brought it up, and I just filled out a paper. Somebody traveled, brought it, threw it in the lottery, and I won a visa. So this is something that's launched in many countries. Some countries are banned from it. They don't qualify for it. Cameroon is lucky to be one of those that you can actually get a visa to the U.S. So that's how I ended up here. So of course, coming in, you want to further your education. You want to make your life better and help your siblings back home, help your family back home. And that's how I really ended up in the U.S. So it wasn't like I was really planning to come here, like struggling. Yes, no. I was definitely not one of those people. If there was a country I would have been looking at, would have been the UK, because I'd been there before.
Wow. So how was the experience for you?
It was interesting because I was 20. So you're at that point where, yes, you're growing up. I was a sheltered kid. I wasn't very exposed to the streets, exposed to the world. I was very sheltered, a pastor's child. Teacher who was very strict. So leaving the country, leaving them behind, coming here and being exposed to being on my own, it was scary. So I lived with a family in Minnesota for a little while, got into college, and then, of course, I had to start my life. But you go through rough patches. You go through situations. Now I had to grow up. I had to learn how to live with people outside of my family. You got into issues with your friends, and things like that. You had relationship issues, things that you were sheltered from before. And eventually I grew up. I had to own my own and, graduated college, got married, have kids, and then, moved to Texas. I'm now in Texas. So it was, along the way, I had to mature. You had to grow up because now, yes, you had the foundation from Cameroon, the culture that you were raised with. And then, of course, now you're in the Western world. So there's that. It's actually a beautiful age to come to this country because if you're 20, you have that background. Your parents have already grounded you. You come now, you are conscious enough to know right from wrong. So if you're making decisions in a different culture, you have that, because I used to hear my mom's voice in my head, even though she wasn't here. When I'm about to make a decision or do something, I could hear her voice saying, Saaghe, don't do that. I wouldn't do that because my mom was very strict. So things like that, I think it's compared to somebody who comes here at age 10, 12, they don't know any better. But at age 20, you know better. So I think that helped me to mature, hold down jobs, be very responsible, disciplined. And, and I've always been a very coachable person. So it kind of helped me in my journey. So like I said, my journey is unique to other people.
One of the challenges most immigrants face is the culture change. And then you start talking about, because culture is what the people eat, the way they dress, and maybe how they talk. Did you find any difficulties in?
Oh, yeah. My first job was fast food restaurant. I worked in Hardee's. Texas people won't even relate to that because Hardee's is a Midwestern fast food, kind of like McDonald's. So the family I live with, the guy actually was a manager for Hardee's, so he got me hooked up on one of the restaurants. So working at drive-through, I couldn't understand a word they were saying. People were speaking so fast, and they'll order something, and I'll have no clue. So I'll type in the wrong thing. So I got yelled at a lot because I couldn't understand it. So they had to push me to the back. So I had to make the hamburgers. So until I got comfortable, I could understand, the American accent, because they think we haven't. They always think we have an accent, but they have an accent. So everyone has an accent. So for the most part, I had to work my way back to the front, be the cashier, and then eventually go back to the drive-through to understand it. So that was a challenge. And then you had people who had never seen a black person before, or someone from Africa who would ask me if we have houses, or if we wear shoes. And so at first I'll run to the bathroom, cry a little bit, come back, wipe my eyes, and then deal with it. Then eventually I got bolder, and I'll say, no, we live on trees. I live by I'm like, your ambassador from the US lives on the tree next to our tree. So I got bold enough to answer those questions. And when they said shoes and all that, I said, no, we walk barefooted. We don't know what shoes are. This is the first time I worn shoes. They're like, really? Do you guys have animals just walking around in the neighborhood? I say, yes, I have a pet lion and a pet elephant. So it got to a point I became sarcastic, and that was my own defense mechanism to deal with, with those questions, because you had people who are asking them genuinely because they didn't know, but there are others who are being racist. They basically wanted to put you down because you're a black person, you're an African. They don't want you here anyways. And you had people who in your face said, you're here to take my job away from me. So even after 27 years, I still have that. As a nurse practitioner, I've had a patient actually say that to me, that you guys have taken away our jobs.
I don't know who's giving them that. There's too much in America, like the opportunity, the chance, and that's the blessing about being. For personal, I feel like that's the biggest blessing about being an immigrant. You look everywhere, you see opportunities. You look everywhere, you see jobs. You look everywhere. Where we are coming from, I don't even want to go there. Now, I'm sure you came here and you went to school.
Yes.
What was the experience like in school?
So in school, when I went to school, I had kids who were younger than me, who were in the same class as me, but they they didn't have to juggle work and school. So while and at that time, when I started, I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus. I remember working at Macy's at the Mall of America, take the bus. Sometimes I'll fall asleep, miss my bus stop, because I'm so tired, I'm sleeping. I'll have to take another bus to come back to school. You get to class, you're sweaty, you're tired, you didn't even have time to do your homework. But those kids were nice and relaxed. Their parents had paid for their tuition. They were not taking financial aid like me. You have to keep up your grades. You have to still work to pay your rent. And, so I didn't have that opportunity like other immigrants. Some immigrants have their parents who paid their tuition as well, but I wasn't that lucky. I had to take care of my own. And then you had, those kids who were well taken care of. Their tuition, like I said, was paid for. Their cars paid off. They drove nicely to school. They were there an hour before class. They had time to do their homework. But I struggled through it, and I was able to, graduate in good time, because the other advantage I had was the credits that I had from Cameroon, they actually translated and saved me about 1.5 years. So I did my first degree in 3 years. So some of those things, because Cameroon has been known to be ahead when it comes to academics compared to other parts of the country. So my high school credits and the two years that I had in teachers training college actually helped me get ahead of my education. So there were struggles, but I had some advantages that worked towards me, and the maturity too, because I was a little older than my classmates. So certain things that they were all excited about didn't excite me. I was all focused on, doing my schoolwork, passing, working to balance everything out. And, so my focus was different from most of the children.
Looking back at those days when you just got here, now, do you think there's anything you wish you would have done differently?
Yes, I would say I mean, there's some things I would wish I had known then. When I came here, I didn't get a lot of education on how to deal with my financial situation. When I started college, they had all these tables set up with T-shirts and credit card applications. I applied for all of those credit cards, all of them. So that messed up my credit.
Wow.
Because they would say, oh, apply and get it. I didn't know. I thought it was free money that I didn't have to pay back. I had everything: Discover, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, name it. I had it. I was swiping them. At that time, I mean, you're buying clothes, you're buying this as a young girl. You and then for once you're free. Your parents are not there to to control all of that. Even though, like I said, I heard my mom's voice, but those were things that I thought that it was free money. But if I had had the right counseling, the right financial education at that point, I would have saved more, spent less, and not just accepted that credit, because it messed up my credit. So it really did mess up my credit. I had to literally go back and undo all of that harm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many years in the United States. How do you feel?
Feel old? Well, I feel like I feel like I'm at an advantage compared to other people in the sense that I came with a rich culture already. I had a baseline where I was working from. So that has helped me, because even raising my children, I don't raise them like Western children. I still have the discipline from Cameroon. They still eat Cameroonian food. They don't eat only American food. My kids sort of try to speak pidgin because they want to, and even my two older kids had to go home. When I went to nursing school, they went to Cameroon. They lived in Limbe and went to PNEU, and which is one of the elementary schools, the high-end elementary schools. So they still remember that. They were 6 and 8 at the time, and they still have that memory. So that's one thing that I'm glad that I'm able to pass on, to them. I would like them to go again. If things were stable in Cameroon, I would have wanted them to even go to boarding school in Cameroon. So that has it's made my stay here more enjoyable, because I still relate to Cameroon in some ways. I still have very beautiful memories of Cameroon. I haven't been there since 2009 because of the uncertainty back there and what's going on. We won't go into that. but it still has made me blend the two cultures. So my Cameroonian culture and the Western culture, I pick the good things out of the Western culture and throw away the bad, and still try to create a balance for me and my family.
Well, from your experience, what would you say to someone who is actually thinking to becoming an immigrant?
So someone who's not here yet.
Who's not here yet, yeah. Okay.
I would say do your research before you pick wherever you want to go. Do your research. Have a plan ahead of time in terms of, because when you say that, people are like, oh, you're in the US now, you don't want us to, you're burning the bridge, you don't want us to come there. There are certain things here that are not the best, but do your research. Think about what do you want out of that culture? Yeah. Make a plan, that way when you get here, find positive-minded people to be, because the person who picks you up from the airport can make or break you. Because there's certain, if somebody picks you up from the airport who doesn't care about working, doesn't care about anything positive in their life, that's what you're gonna copy that and think that that's what America is about. So if you come, you have to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who will only make you be progressive, not retard your progress or make you stagnant in where with your plans. Because sometimes you might come with a good head on your shoulders, a good plan, and somebody can just quench that fire and just say, oh man, discourage you from it. Yes, take your time, this, and then you take 5 years, before you know it is 10 years and you haven't achieved anything. So I would say do your research and then really decide on what country you're going to, what are my plans, how I can make myself better, how I can beat the records of the people who have already been there in a positive way, not trying to challenge anybody. But you want to come, you don't want to make the same mistakes that other people have made. Like I've talked about the credit cards. If you come find a good mentor and coach. You need a coach and mentor in life, no matter what.
That's true.
So if I know that credit cards mess me up, I don't want you to come and do the same thing just because I'm being wicked. I'm saying, okay, I went through it, you should go through it too. No. How about you come and you have good credit so that when you're ready to buy a home, your credit is good. You're ready to take a loan for whatever reason. Your credit is good. You're not going through, the same. And that's just one example of many.
Wow. So a few days ago, probably a week now, we had this incident in Antigua where an immigrant boat kind of like capsized, and I think it was a boat of about 40 people. And from what I'm hearing, about 15 Cameroonians are still missing. 14 to 15 are still missing. I don't know if we should just consider them dead. Did you hear about that story?
I haven't really been following up on that, but I think I heard something about that on social media.
But this news is common. People who are taking a boat to Europe, people who are trying to go through the the question is, people would do everything to get to Europe, to get to America, to get overseas, to fall bush. Probably because the mindset is
it's better over there.
Yeah, it's better over there. Do you think that is? What is your opinion on that? Let me put it that way.
I think that it is what hand we've been dealt while we're back home, because. Like I said, I wasn't looking to come to the U.S. because for me, I had made up my mind that I'll stay in Cameroon. I was going to I would have found a way to survive in Cameroon, whether it's teaching or even if it meant selling puff-puff, I would have made it. Opening a restaurant, I would have made it because I like to cook. But there are people who have this vision that the grass is greener on the other side. And it's also because maybe the circumstances they're born into, they don't like those circumstances. There are people who really don't even want to acknowledge the background they come from or their families. They even want to deny their families. So people like that, whether you go up or come down, they want to leave Cameroon. So you cannot change their minds. They will do everything. There are people who have attempted to leave Cameroon like 10 times, been sent back, and they still keep trying to leave because they don't want to stay under those circumstances. So people like that, they will do everything. If it means swimming, they'll swim. I will not swim. I'll rather stay on that side because I hate swimming. So it's one of those catch-22 things where you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't, because you stay back in Cameroon, you're not going to have the life that you want. You won't have a job. You're going to be frustrated. Even if you have a degree, you might end up on the streets without a job. But then you're thinking that going to the other country is better. Then you go there and you're dealing with paper issues, immigration issues. You're either running away from the police or immigration people, or you are limited in what you can do because you don't have the right papers. So you have to go through this whole process, whether it's asylum or, getting married, whatever, doing whatever to survive. So it's really... You can't judge the people who are trying to do that because something is pushing them to try to. But then, if you end up losing your life, was it worth it? Was it worth leaving your country in a boat and all that? But we can't judge these people. It's because their circumstances were not favorable.
Oh, thank you. This was really, really good conversation. We hope to have you here some other time so we can talk about many other things, especially things that are happening in the U.S. How do you receive most of this news? The former president was indicted. So many things happening in the U.S. The culture change, the things that they have here that we don't, our community back home frowns upon. And I hope to have you here some other time so we can continue this conversation.
All right, sounds good.
Please, your social media handle. If somebody wanted to follow you, somebody wanted to reach out to you.
Well, so I'm on social media with my first and last name, Saaghe Fogwe. And then I also have my business media, which is starheritageld.com, my website, and then Star Heritage on all social media handles, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on all of those on WhatsApp. You can find me on WhatsApp as well. So, so everywhere you can find me.
Wow, just an immigrant. That was another segment. Please follow the page, share the video. And if you know any other immigrant who wants to share their story, let us know. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.